Hey, Michael. So, what I wanted to do today was to get a sense of, because you're in a role where you're training new customers. That's
Yep.
really what you do full time. You also have a retail background.
Yeah.
You grew up in a shop, a family business, and so you've got the retail hat. You've got that hat of being an expert trainer of retailers. So, as retailers start to look at our software and implementing it in their business. What are the things that are important to them? What are they looking for from the software that they really want you to focus on kind of early?
A clean transition. It's definitely the first thing that comes to mind. So, forming a plan. We always form a plan around, getting your training done, getting comfortable. Then we make a plan about when you want to go live and what data we'll redo around that day is the main focus I'm finding right now. So I've got a very nice process where you finish your last day and I'll redo your quantity on hand and customer balances and put that in. You're ready to go first thing the next morning.
Okay.
And it's streamlined and hopefully stress free for the business. But for me, it's a plan. It works so well, I find.
And in terms of software functionality, specific things in the software that they might kind of have expressed to you, they're very keen to kind of lean into that function. Is there anything there that,
Yeah. So looking at our supplier ordering facilities, and managing what stock's coming when, uh, purchasing the right quantities or the right minimum dollar values and that sort of stuff. So just maintaining like the everyday processes.
yeah, yeah.
And then if it's news agencies, trying to make it as seamless a change as possible for themselves and continue operating because as we know with news agencies, very big and lots of different functions all fitting together, making sure they all work.
And look, I guess if you look across at, say, produce and farm supply businesses, they have a complexity around invoice complexity, and then when they're doing selling, the selling complexity of what they want to create for their customers. So
Yeah.
you've got to cover those sort of things as well. That devil.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's when they when they're breaking down seed and stuff that they get in as a 20 kilo bag or a ton bag and selling it by the kilo.
Do you get many who do that?
Yeah, every now and then there's a few.
Yep.
I haven't had one in a while, but they're still out there.
Yeah,
They're still
yeah.
out there. Some do it differently. They don't just sell it by the kilo; they bag it up themselves. Or selling anything by the meter and that sort of stuff. So making sure they've got the heads around that sort of thing.
Right.
The next thing mainly I would say is variance and making sure your variant data structure is good, particularly
Okay,
when it
so
wants to go to
sorry, I'm a small business retailer. I'm very focused
variance.
on my shop.
Yeah.
What is a variant? I mean,
What is a
seriously, you're
variant?
using this technical term, you're confusing me, and you're using it deliberately to upset me.
Sorry about that. So you might sell t-shirts or clothing or boots or anything in your shop that requires size and color structure to it. And if you've got a website, getting that information correct so it goes up to your website properly, so it sells online as customers would expect to sell it, see it, and purchase it by, is
So
what
when
I
you
would
talk
encourage
about
you to do.
variants, you're talking about, for example, color, size, and style.
Yes, exactly.
But variants could be other variations
It
of a
could
product.
be anything. Yeah, I've seen it used in bike stores for the same bike but different frame sizes.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
want them linked.
And I mean, we came into this conversation without an agenda, so we're sort of going wherever the conversation goes. But I would imagine when you're in the middle of training someone, it's possible that they feel overwhelmed.
They can do, and I try and mitigate that by having a structure to my training. So I always have my first four objectives of learning how to sell, how to receive and create stock, how to do an end of day, and how to back up.
Yeah.
They become the four core things any business needs to do without any extra facility or functionality.
Yeah.
We need to achieve those four objectives first and foremost.
Yeah.
And if we can do that in one session, great. If not, we do it in a second session and we touch back on the stuff we covered again until we're happy. Then we add on. It's like learning to walk. You've got to learn to crawl first.
Okay, but you're saying that from the perspective of an adult who already knows how to walk. Um, uh, I know Uh, you're in the Army Reserve for a long time, and I just wonder, uh, did the training you have or had with the Army Reserve has that helped give you a foundation of how you go about
Yeah,
training today?
absolutely. It was the Army cadets
Sorry,
for about,
cadets.
that's
Yeah.
okay. It was about 6 years, I think I was in there, or 6 or 8 years. So I started off being taught, and then as I moved through the ranks, I started teaching. And the Army cadets gave me those skills and confidence to do so. And then having the family business helped me understand
Mm.
business, which just I think makes me a bit of a powerhouse in this space. But
Yep.
yeah, it truly gave me the skills.
So, have you done a jeweler install recently?
Uh, Probably about 8 months ago, I
Yep.
think. Yep.
Jewelers are pretty interesting and unique businesses in the sense that, they're very local. Some
Mm,
of them are jewelers, as in the makers of jewelry. Others are just pure retailers. Some
yeah.
have a repairs component, some don't. And it's that complexity of business that I think is quite fascinating because we're very much built to be able to serve that.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So I always like to ask, find out what sort of level of retailer they are, whether they custom make or if they get it made outside the business. And we make sure we find we have the functionality to suit all of those requirements. So whether
Mm.
you are just a retailer or you are your own maker, um, or if you get it resized by someone else, we have the facility to help you manage that.
Yep. Have you done a firearms dealer recently?
Yes,
Yeah.
early in the year.
They're interesting because, there's regulation around how they operate.
Yeah.
And the need for obviously accurate stock on hand data. Some of
Mm,
them rent lockers and things like that. So we do all of those things within the software.
yeah.
Um, and you're dealing, I would say, in firearms, it's a little bit like fishing and outdoors. You're going to have people who are in the business because they kind of love that, what the business is involved in. So
Yeah.
there's a passion for that, possibly more ahead of being pure retail. So you
Yeah.
have to bring some business structure to what they do.
Yeah, yeah. So making sure that they do all the right things that they need to do. So, given that every state and territory has different requirements, finding out, well, what do you need to do? And let's do that here. Or, don't need to do that. Okay, we don't do that. Whatever works for you. Um, yeah, as you said, we handle all the subscription stuff around locker hiring or storage fees. We've got facilities to handle that. If you're storing one gun or two guns or 15 guns, we can handle all of that. It's yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty robust and capable software.
Are you getting much interest in the AI tools?
Yes, AI tools is my favorite stuff at the moment. Not only can it read PDFs, but it can also read Excel or CSV files. And
Yeah.
the cool thing about the Excel and CSV files is if they're not perfect, you can still manipulate them within retail without having to open them in Excel
Mm,
or it's just awesome because if it's just not right, you can add a formula and bang,
mm.
fixes the
And
data.
so we have the AI tools embedded in the software.
Yeah.
Um, Unrelated to what's embedded in the software, in in my other world, I own a shop.
Mm,
And so what I did was last Saturday, I took a PDF of our monthly sales comparison for the first
mm,
6 months of this year. I just loaded that into Google Gemini. Then I took a stock listing and I loaded that into Gemini. And all I said to Gemini was, "What do you think?" I
yeah.
didn't give it any other information.
No
It had to
context.
think
Yep.
about it, and it came back and it said, "This is what I can see." And what it saw was what I agree with about how the business is going. And then I said, "Okay, what should I do?" That's all I said. It then came back with a list, an action item list of things that I should do. And I agreed everything on that list was good.
Yeah. So
And then
was it something like it might detect like an overstock in this area because
exactly,
there's
it
low
said,
sales here.
it
Yep.
said, I can see you've got these sales here, but you've got this much stock there. I think you're overstocked in this situation.
Yep.
And then I said, okay, I've got an hour to spend on one thing. What should that be? It then came back with one thing, which out of its list, actually agree was the ideal thing to spend an hour on, and it was going to give me a pretty good reward. And
Wow.
and the reason I say that is our reports are well designed, they're logical in their layout, and that makes them easy to load into an AI platform for its analysis. And so even though when we're talking about AI in our POS software that's embedded, there are
Mm.
also these options to take a report from our software or two reports or three reports and load it into Gemini or ChatGPT and say, what do you think?
Yep.
And I have just found it absolutely fascinating. It's an area that it's so exciting.
That's pretty awesome. I can imagine I'm gonna have some fun with that today,
Yeah.
just to
Well,
see what
so
you can do.
what you should do, because you talk with so many different customers across so many, you should go and choose a complex report
Mm.
and see what it comes back with, like challenge it.
Yeah, that I think I've got one in mind. One that I necessarily look at and go, I can see what you're telling me, but I understand it, but what value does it have to me?
Yeah.
So I'd love to throw that report at it and see what it tells me, what it should give me.
Hey, I've got one last question for you because you're a specialist when it comes to training new customers for our software.
Mm.
What's something that you would hope that they would bring to the training that helps them be more ready, if you like?
Uh, I've got this one. Watch a video. Watch some of the videos I've already made. So I've got this massive library of videos on our website under the onboarding section, and any customer who's prepared makes the training easier because they're not learning it necessarily for the first time. But even though it might also just be a repeat of what they've watched, then we're actually doing it.
Yep.
So I don't when we learn how to receive a stock item, I step away from my computer. I'm not controlling or driving. I
Yep.
walk you through, you do it yourself. But if you've watched the video, you've already heard the tips and tricks and
Mhm.
things, and it's just reinforced learning is really good. So any customer that watches the videos first before I do training is just gold.
And those videos are accessible to anybody, and
They're free.
they're what we call snackable videos. They're short, aren't they? They're like 6 or 7 minutes long.
Yeah, the longest is 10, the shortest is
Yeah.
2. So
Yeah.
you've got it's not much time and it's in sections. So one section is only 3 videos, one section is literally 1 video because it's what's one just very core section on basics. So you
Yep.
get the basics down pat and you're going to get off to a flying start.
That's great. All right. Thank you.
No problem.